In a breathtaking moment that has shocked Parliament, infuriated South Africans, and thrown the political class into chaos, guided Mantashe, one of the ANC's strongest and most tenacious figures, was officially stripped of his seat in Parliament. The move followed his dramatic arrest overseas on allegations related to global corruption, massive financial fraud, and abuse of office. In a surprise that both shocked and infuriated loyalists to the party, President Sir Ramaphosa personally sanctioned the ouster, marking what seems to be a dramatic change in how the government will approach top-level scandals. Witnesses within Parliament described a scene that was emotional, disorganized, and unlike anything they had ever seen before. Mantashe had been a dominant force in the ANC for years, a man who carried himself with defiance whenever questions of impropriety arose. A leader who had brushed aside scandal after scandal with such political staying power that he appeared invincible. But when the moment finally came, he appeared visibly shaken. Overwhelmed by the gravity of the accusations, his signature composure deserted him. For the first time in his political career, the once invincible figure broke down. He openly sobbed as he was asked to vacate his seat in Parliament. It was a world away from the strict, authoritative minister South Africans had grown accustomed to seeing. This time, the man who once helped shape national policy stood mute, shaking, and humiliated. What makes this case remarkable is that the arrest did not even originate within South Africa's jurisdiction. The allegations began in a foreign country where detectives spent years piecing together a sophisticated web of corruption. The international arrest warrant, according to reports, was issued by an upper-level financial crimes tribunal supported by evidence collected across several continents. The charges were severe. Mantashe was accused of participating in vast networks of international energy companies, maintaining secret tax haven accounts hidden from authorities, and cultivating suspicious diplomatic ties that hinted at deeper layers of influence peddling. Prosecutors alleged that Mantashe either masterminded or approved multi-million rand bribes, laundered money stolen from the state, and funneled foreign contracts through shell companies. The details were staggering. Documents reportedly tied him to deals made during his tenure as Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy. What made this case so explosive was that it wasn't confined to one country. A coalition of European financial watchdogs, African Union legal groups, and international anti-corruption monitors joined forces to uncover it. For South Africans, this was no longer just a domestic scandal, it had become an international reckoning with implications far beyond Pretoria. Equally startling was President Ramaphosa's refusal to protect Mantashe. Sources inside the presidency indicated that he favored the ouster, insisting that defending South Africa's reputation and demonstrating accountability outweighed loyalty to a long-time ally. To some, it was an act of courage, a chance to reset the moral compass of a scandal-stained government. To others, especially within ANC's inner circles, it was a betrayal that cut deeply into the party's legacy of solidarity among its senior leaders. Mantashe and Ramaphosa had long shared a political path, often standing side by side to represent both the ANC and the nation. Their relationship had seemed unbreakable. But under growing international pressure, a fragile economy, and declining public trust, Ramaphosa found himself cornered. Analysts suggest that his decision could define his presidency. If more high-profile arrests follow, Ramaphosa might be remembered as the president who finally confronted entrenched corruption. But if the ANC fractures under internal strife and scandal, it could destroy him politically. Witnesses in Parliament described the atmosphere as unprecedented. Mantashe entered the chamber with his usual confidence, the same defiance that had carried him through earlier controversies. Yet as word spread that his removal would be put to a vote and the legal papers confirming his arrest were read aloud, his bravado crumbled. In a desperate attempt to salvage his image, he addressed his colleagues, appealing to ANC caucus members and reminding them of his loyalty and service. His pleas, however, were met with silence. The chamber remained unmoved. Cameras captured the historic moment, his tear-streaked face, trembling hands, and final walk out of the House of Assembly as officials escorted him away. ANC MPs' reactions spoke volumes. Some sat in stunned silence, unable to meet his gaze. Others looked away, unwilling to witness the fall of a man they once revered. A few discreetly applauded, perhaps relieved that one of the party's most divisive figures was finally being held to account. But beyond individual reactions, the symbolism was unmistakable. This was not merely the downfall of a single man, it was an empire collapsing before the nation's eyes. The stakes for the ANC are enormous. With Mantashe removed, and with Ramaphosa implicitly admitting fault by allowing it, questions now loom large. Who else was complicit? Who's next? And how long before the party's leadership structure itself begins to unravel? 4 years, allegations of corruption within the ANC were dismissed as politically motivated attacks. But now that international authorities have stepped in, denial is no longer an option. The fact that the arrest came from abroad also raises unsettling questions about South Africa's own institutions. Why did foreign governments have to take the lead? Why were domestic agencies either unable or unwilling to prosecute one of the country's most powerful figures? Beyond the domestic embarrassment, the incident carries serious diplomatic consequences. Foreign governments are watching closely, with several now demanding transparency and visible reforms before re-engaging in trade, investment, or aid agreements with South Africa. What once passed under the banner of diplomatic cooperation is now being scrutinized. If more senior ANC leaders face similar charges, the nation could drift toward international isolation. Rumors already swirl within diplomatic circles that foreign partners are quietly reassessing their relationships with Pretoria. Economists warn of dire fallout, potential investor flight, currency depreciation, and rising unemployment for ordinary South Africans, already burdened by years of economic hardship. The fear is that once again they will bear the cost of elite corruption. On the streets of Johannesburg, Cape Town, and Durban, public sentiment was a mix of anger and relief, anger at the betrayal of public trust, and relief that one of the untouchables had finally been held accountable. Civil society groups wasted no time in mobilizing protests, marches, and public forums. The South African Council of Churches and legal advocacy organizations have demanded sweeping reforms to prevent such abuses of power from recurring. Their message is clear and unambiguous: this moment must not be squandered.